I found this shirt at Goodwill a while ago and I loved everything about it except that the arm openings were too tight and it just felt like the shirt was cutting into my armpit. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to lower or make an opening larger for your shirts. The technique I'm going to show you is very beginner friendly, so you don't need to have a lot of sewing skills to do this, but it is designed for shirts that are made with a woven or a non-stretchy material. Anyone can make this adjustment. I'm going to walk you through it, so let's go. You just need a few simple materials to adjust your arm opening. You're going to want a seam ripper, a piece of tailor's chalk, some pins, scissors, an iron, and you'll need either a needle and thread or a sewing machine. It's definitely easier with a sewing machine, but you can do this by hand if you don't have one. The first thing to do is to try your shirt on and then mark with the tailor's chalk where you want the arm opening to end. So I've already made a little mark where I want my arm opening to end. And I also made a mark where I want the opening to start getting larger. So when I put the shirt on, I noticed that from this spot to this spot is where I would really like to create more space. After you have those marks made on your shirt, the next thing to do is that we are going to be seam ripping the arm opening. And as you're seam ripping, you might notice that there's extra fabric that was sewn over the hem, and that is like a bias fabric, or maybe it's a bias tape. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you a very simple approach to changing the arm opening, where we're just going to be folding over the fabric and creating a new hem without any bias fabric. But I just wanted to point out that there might be some bias fabric on the shirt that you're changing, and that's fine. You can just set it aside as you seam rip. So I just wanted to show you that this hem was put together with some bias tape on the edge. So I'm just going to keep working my way around and seam ripping so that I have just this raw edge of the shirt opening to work with. I just wanted to point out that if your shirt has this bias tape sewn into the side seam, so I'm down here, here's the collar, here's the bottom edge of the armhole. If this material is sewn into the side seam, you'll want to go ahead and open it up a little bit with your seam ripper to get all of this bias tape out of the way. All right, I've got the bias tape removed from the edge, and I have the opening fully seam ripped. So in the next step, I'm going to go ahead and iron this opening so it's nice and flat. Once it's ironed, you want to line up the arm opening here. So you're trying to line up that curve so that it's, nice and lined up, basically. And then you're going to actually put a couple of pins through both sides of the shirt to kind of hold it in place. And then you want to draw a curved line from the spot at the top of the opening towards the mark that we made down here at the bottom of the opening. But we actually want to go about a 1/2 inch above this mark because we need to save some fabric for our seam allowance. So we actually want to go to right about here. That's 1/2 inch higher than what we marked when we tried the shirt on. So you'll want to draw a nice curved line from this spot to this new spot. Now, when you go to do your first opening, you'll just draw your line and then cut right on your line. But when you've already done one side, you want to save what you cut and use this as a pattern piece to make your other line. Okay, so this I cut from the other side, and I'm going to use this and I'm going to trace this line on the second armhole. Okay, but when you're doing this for the first time, you're going to just go ahead and just draw the mark freehand. But once you've done it once, you want to copy that piece so that the openings will be changed in the same way, if that makes sense, so that they'll be, this arm opening on this side is going to end up matching the one that we already adjusted on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and trace along this piece of fabric just like that. Okay. All right, so hopefully you can kind of see I've made a new line right here. There's a little bit of a zoom in for you. So here's the line, and now I am going to cut through both sides of the shirt right along this line. And I'm going to take my time and try to do it fairly carefully. And when you're cutting up into the original armhole, you do want to kind of try to ease it in so that you don't have like a weird, V or unevenness. You're kind of trying to ease back into this original shape of the opening. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we're going to actually turn our shirt wrong side out so that we can iron the opening. So we want to actually iron the opening a 1/4 inch. So, if your seam came apart, you can take a minute and sew that back in place. And then once you've done that, you're going to fold this edge over 1/4 of an inch and iron it all the way around. Okay, the 1/4 inch fabric is folded over once, and I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to fold it another 1/4 inch and iron it all the way around again. Okay, so now the opening is fully ironed. I'm going to go ahead and pin this hem in place. Okay, all the pinning is finished, and next I'm going to show you how to sew this new hem in place, either by hand or with a machine. Okay, to hand sew, you'll just need a needle, and I've threaded it with thread that will blend in pretty well. And I've put a strand through, and then I've pulled the ends together. So I actually am working with a double strand of thread. And I'm going to tie these two ends together in a little knot. Okay, so I've got a little double knot on this end, and now I'm going to show you a really simple back stitch. I'm going to start my stitches near the lowest point of the armhole, and I'm going to just sew from the inside of the fabric to the front so that my knot will be on the inside of the shirt. I've zoomed in a little bit so hopefully you can see a little better. So now I'm on the outside, the visible side of the shirt, and I'm actually going to make a small stitch going back down towards that seam that's at the low point, the side seam at the lowest spot of the arm opening, and then pull my thread all the way through. So there I have my first little stitch. It's right here. Now I'm going to come back from the back side, and I'm trying to sew pretty close to this folded edge. So I'm going to go back from the back side back to the front, about 1 stitch length ahead of that first stitch that I made. So here's the first stitch that I made. It's about that long, and now I've come out about 1 stitch length ahead, and I'm going to go back towards where that first stitch ended. So this is called the back stitch, because you go forward and then you sew back, and your stitches will be touching each other. Now, the smaller you make your stitches, the less noticeable they will be, and obviously the closer your thread matches, the less visible they will be as well. And it's good to start on the back side of your shirt, and that gives you more practice so that your stitches might be a little straighter and more tidy by the time you get to the front part of your shirt. Now, like I mentioned, you can also do this at the sewing machine, so I'm going to show you how to do it that way next. Okay, now I'm at my sewing machine, and I took the hand stitches out that I had done earlier. And what I'm going to do is just sew so I've got the wrong side out so I can see this little folded edge. And I'm just going to take my time and carefully sew as close to the folded edge as I can. And obviously I will take out the pins before I get to them. And I'm just going to go all the way around, nice and slow. Okay, and I'm getting right back near where I started, so I'm just gonna sew over my original stitches with a couple of stitches, and then I'm gonna back stitch a couple of times, and then it's done. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim these loose threads here at the end. And like I mentioned, it's good to start your stitches on the back side of your shirt, where this little area will be less noticeable, because it is a little tricky to get your stitches perfectly lined up. Ta-da! I have better armholes now. Yay! I hope this tutorial helps you fix your shirt as well, get it back in action. And if you're looking for other mending tutorials, I am linking to a playlist underneath this video of a whole bunch of mending projects.